Chairman with that. Okay, welcome everybody. Today is April 15th. We're in the afternoon session. Our next agenda item is an action item. This is reconsideration of negotiation of the Donley impact area. Mark, you want to come on up to the mic, please? And Susan, if you want to come up too, or you can come up to the table if you want to sit down. You're good? Welcome. Let me get myself caught up because I'm kind of the old one here. I kind of get lost, but the last I understood is you guys have got a comp plan and you want us to go through the public hearing process, do all that and get it into our comp plan. Is that the gist of it?
Yes, we'd appreciate that.
And Cinda, what's that process? As commissioners, we say, yes, we're in support of this, and we make a motion to send this forward to P and Z, or how, I'm not sure how to do this.
Yeah, that sounds like the appropriate path. You just remand it to the Planning and Zoning Commission for consideration of the comprehensive plan and ordinance amendments.
And then,
So,
go ahead.
so the reason that we kind of stopped the process, and we've talked about this, so just full disclosure, I've talked to both Mark and Susan, was that because of the changes that are coming July 1, we wanted to make sure that everything was compliant, so we would not have to do this twice. I think moving this to the Planning and Zoning Commission makes sense. I'm still fuzzy on the architectural statement. Not that we don't want to support, it's the how do we do it in the process to make sure that it's legal and it can be, codified. And what I'm thinking and what I'm hearing, and I'm just looking at Cinda and Brian, but we've had so many issues trying to enforce things in the impact areas of McCall, even though we adopt their zone or their codes. So you guys already have adopted this code in your city.
Yes,
Okay. So for us to adopt it, we have to just adopt your code only in the impact areas and make that our code.
I would not suggest that. I would suggest if you look at what we're asking for is just this small section, don't adopt our code. It'll be a nightmare enforcing the whole code.
That's the problem we're having right now.
All we ask is this one section, and because we're in alignment with your code, it's just this section is of particular interest to us with regard to wanting mini storages to be a little bit nicer than what you see sometimes. And if you'd like it in your code to apply in our impact area, we're good with that. But our main goal is to get our comp plan adopted.
So Mark, with that, I mean, why,
Oh, okay.
knowing that this is something you guys want in
Hold
the
on.
impact area, could we just make that as a requirement of approval? I mean, I've asked Cinda to put on plats that if they're once become contiguous with the city, that they will not deny annexation. You guys would still have to annex them in. Can we do the same thing and just put this as a requirement in the impact area instead of actually adopting their code? Cinda, does that make sense?
Cinda would-
Mark, before we begin, could you introduce yourself for the record and just
I'm
the town
sorry.
you live in?
I'm sorry,
We didn't
we've
get that.
known each other for at least 5 years now. Mark Butler, 1675 East Bishop Way, Eagle, and Donnelly has hired me to help them with their planning process.
Is that Doug?
Yes, sir.
Hey,
Sorry about
now we're good.
So the way I think I would envision doing what Donnie wants is to have the Planning and Zoning Commission adopt the comprehensive plan in the impact area and insert in our Title VII impact areas for Donley, those codes specific to the design review level, and also put a requirement in there that prior to consideration at Valley County, they have to go to the city of Donley and see if Donley wants to annex them. We'll have to fine tune those words, but all of that can go into Title VII.
In our ordinance?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
So that
We
way,
could make
when,
a separate little section there.
so that way, when it comes to you and the P and Z meeting, and they're wanting that referenced, it would already be in there. Is that correct?
Well, there would be design guidelines in the ordinance
In the ordinance?
that says you can't have metal buildings for storage units. And I don't know exactly, that's just an example.
Yeah.
And also have to submit with your application decision by the city of Donley that they do not want to annex you. Because I think that was the other consideration they wanted.
Well, under their proposal here, 7-3-5, it's kind of a mandatory deal if you want to develop your property. The way I'm reading that.
Right, and to me,
And
the
I think
design,
I think that's great. I think that's what's got to happen.
right, I think the design guidelines is easy, but are you willing to put the people in the impact area on a route that's going to take twice as long? I mean, because if they're adjacent, they have to go to the city of Donley to figure out if they're going to be annexed in before they can apply to the county. I mean, that's your consideration for those citizens. And I mean, do they have to go through the whole annexation process? You could talk about 6 months to, a year out before they can even apply to Valley County. Is that what you want those people to do? Or do we need to fine tune a timeline in there that they just go to Donley on a general agenda item, explore annexation, and if Donley's ready to do that, then they will just apply for annexation. If they don't want to do that, then they go through the Valley County process. I think we could just add like a 15-day thing onto that.
So it's in order to annex a piece of ground, what is that process? I'm assuming you survey the piece of ground, you describe it. This is now
right.
moved into the city limits and you will start taxing it.
Right? You amend the comprehensive plan if an amendment is needed. You adopt an ordinance.
Is there public hearings and all that?
Yes,
Even though the landowner is agreeable?
yes.
Hmm.
To annex, you have to adopt an ordinance. It's a timely process. And
I
then
think
there's
if they're
annexation
contiguous.
agreements and, we want $5,000 per lot. I mean, but we only want to give you 3. I mean, there's a whole bunch of deals.
Well, I
However,
guess-
if they're contiguous with the city, that it should be
It
within
should
the
be.
city.
But it
No.
also helps our case if we decide to do something different in the McCall impact area, in the fact that they don't annex anything in that impact area. Now, if we start a new trend here, I guess, or a new practice, I think that would encourage that in McCall as well.
But is
Because that's
Donley,
what's got to happen.
is Donley going to agree to annex them?
Well, if
Well,
they're
it's a
contiguous and they want to develop, that's an automatic, is
Yeah.
one of the conditions of approval. You have to annex in.
But what if Donley says we don't want to annex you?
Why
And
would
they-
Donnie say that?
then they come to
if
the
it's
county.
And then they
contiguous?
come back to the county, but in the meantime, 6 months to a year has passed.
Not if I'm the planner.
So, well, that's just the consideration as we go through the process. Are those timelines?
Because it is such,
Hmm.
I guess that the timeline doesn't concern me as much as the end result. Because,
Okay.
we're planning for 50 years into the future. And so if it takes a little bit extra time to get there, I'm okay with the timing of it. We need to do it right and not expediently.
Okay.
And that's if it's contiguous. I mean, if it has properties between or whatever, then that's a whole different conversation. But in my opinion, if you're contiguous to a city and you can annex into that city, that is the first step that should happen. So,
Regardless of how much time it takes.
yes.
And even in
What
seven
if
three,
they don't want to annex for like 5 years?
yeah, but 735 basically says if it's denied by the city, then they just go to the county ordinance and go through our process.
Mm-hmm.
To me, you would want to annex so you have more control over the architectural coloring and all that aspect of that application. That's what you would gain out of that, plus revenue for city taxes.
Yes. Plus a little bit more orderly development, because the idea is if property touches the city, ultimately it'll be in the city, whether it's by annexation now or sometime in the future. Your whole goal, I think, is orderly development. There are time constraints in the codes with regard to reasonable processing times, although cities and counties sometimes take advantage of that and drag things out for a long time. I'm not saying that about you, but I do a lot of my work in Eagle, so I know how things get drug out. So
So what you're doing is supporting Cinda's comment that there needs to be some kind of a time allocation given.
I
If
don't,
you've
I don't
applied-
support that. I think the ordinance is written fine the way it is. If you see abuse in the future, it's your ordinance, you just change it. But the guideline for people to annex into the city, if they touch the city, I think is sound land use planning. They should go there first. If for some reason this dark cloud comes over Donnelly, like it maybe has in some other cities where things are taking forever, it's your ordinance. You have control. then you delete it or change it. Don't need, we're asking you to put something in your ordinance that you can always change or delete if you want to, if you find that turns out unreasonable. I think it's a good sound ordinance for land use planning. It's common, it's not something that I just made up. Some cities do it, Boise does, Eagle doesn't, you can. And again, I tried to keep the ordinances you would adopt very simple. There's two, there's that and the metal buildings. If you look at, I gave you McCall's, there's pages and pages of hair pulling crazy stuff. So
Speaking to the choir on that.
I'm trying to keep it simple. And again, our main goal, oh, and understand too that you will see this again. This is just for you to say, hey, this looks like we can open up the negotiations. Let's send it to P and Z. They'll scrutinize it. Your staff will scrutinize it. It'll get back to you and you can scrutinize it again. Thank you.
And then that conversation could be had too, if P and Z want to add something as far as timing, then have them look at that specifically.
Yeah, yeah, we can, the P and Z can look at it. I know that I've sent many people in to talk to the city, trying to get them to annex.
Well, it really makes sense
It
to
does,
do
because
that.
nobody gets
That's how the process is supposed to work. If you're in the impact area and you have to join the city, you get city services, that's the way it's supposed to work.
Maybe
And
we can strengthen something that if it is contiguous
Yeah.
with the city, then, the city needs to annex.
Mayor Doris, do you have something you want to add to the conversation? Please introduce yourself.
Susan Doris, 163 Eld Lane, Don Lake. Just thank you for your consideration. Mark has done a really good job for us, and we're pleased with our comp plan. And thank you very much for reconsidering.
Yeah, awesome.
Cindy, just rough guess. I know this is a hard question to answer, but timeline on something like this? 3 months, 6 months for RP and Z? You have to have 2 public hearings?
We have one. Probably August, July, August.
That'll work for you, Mark?
Their agendas have been packed.
Yeah, I know it. We've actually had CUPs we've had to delay because we just ran out of time, so.
Yeah, the last comp plan was 20 years ago, so I think if it takes a little time, we're good.
Okay.
We're just happy to have the door open.
Oh, if we're all in agreement up here, I'd entertain a motion then to begin the process of negotiation with Donley on the impact area agreement.
I will move that we move forward on the reconsideration of Donley's impact area agreement.
Second,
Moved and seconded, all in favor, please say aye. Aye, motion carries. There we
Thank you all.
go.
Thank you all very much.
So, Susan, you guys may consider too, when they have their public hearing, I'm hearing Cindy say there's some concern with annexing, you guys need to come and have that conversation with planning and zoning, make sure that you guys are at the table.
This is the first I've heard that there's a problem.
Okay, well.
There
we'll
was.
Make sure.
Was there?
Yeah, not with Lori previously.
Oh, it's been a while.
but
Okay.
We have ways to fix it.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect.
Hey,
Make sure
thanks,
you're part
guys.
of the conversation, so we don't encounter that again.
Have a great day. We're gonna move on down. Our next agenda item, these are all action items, property tax exemption applications. Assessor Leeper, come on up. Let me get your mic.
Are you about getting tired of these already?
We're taking a break. Next Monday, we will not be hearing any of these.
We're not gonna be here either.
Because we're not here next
Oh,
Monday.
you're not?
No.
Monday off.
Oh, okay, well.
You can come on in if you want.
Well, today is the deadline at 5 for everyone to have their applications turned in. So, the last few days have been very hectic at our office. But the good news is we're finally getting to the end and we'll get everything that sent to PA for review, and as they get them done, I'll get them on the agenda.
That is
like
good,
we have
sir.
been.
Perfect.
Okay.
Are we seeing more this year, about the same? Have we?
About the same. About the same.
think about
Um,
the same, but
The only new applicant this year was the Finnish church, right there on
Is this a new building?
No, it's the old Finn Church by the cemetery.
Oh, yeah.
On Finn Church Lane. So
It's kind of like the Alpha
as I did
Grange.
an audit throughout the year, trying to figure out, are we getting
Damn.
applications from everybody that we should be? I found that we didn't get an application from them for years because there was something in the file that stated, I don't remember what year, a long time ago, that the commissioners had deemed them exempt because they were a historical building.
Kind of like
So-
the Alpha Grange, same kind of similar thinking.
Perhaps. So I consulted with Oki and he said if the Historical Society actually owned the property, they could qualify under that. But since the Historical Society does not own it, they have to apply every year if they want an exemption. So we reached out to Bill Leaf, got him
Good,
the application, and he understands that they have to fill one out every year. So that was the only new applicant this year.
I think it's mostly just funerals,
Yeah,
mostly there.
so anyway.
Okay. So you want to start at the top?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so the first application is from Cascade Family Worship Center, Inc.
Actually, there's an addendum, I'm sorry. We added the 5 parcels for the Roman Catholic Church.
Okay, you want to do those first?
Yeah, let's do those ones first,
Okay.
please. So all 5 parcels have been reviewed and they have all been recommended for approval. We've got the Cascade Church, the McCall Church, the parsonage in McCall, and 2 parking lot parcels. And we are recommending approval of all 5 of these parcels.
I am waiting for stuff to download, but I'll take your word for it. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so if everybody is good with this, I'd entertain a motion to approve the exemption for the Roman Catholic Diocese for 5 parcels.
I'll make a motion that we approve Roman Catholic Diocese for 5 parcels.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next one, then we'll go back up to Cascade Family Worship. Is that where you want to go?
Yep, so this is just the mobile home itself. You guys already have approved the other 2 for Cascade Worship and the land parcel that this mobile home actually sits on. He just failed to fill out an application, so he was late getting this one in. It has been reviewed and we are recommending approval.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the Cascade Family Worship Center a tax exemption.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Elk Creek Baptist,
Okay, so
I gotta,
this,
I gotta recuse
Oh,
myself
yep.
from this
you
one.
have to go out and sit in your truck on this one.
Come wake me up.
Okay,
Wouldn't go that far.
so this is an amendment from a partial to a full.
right, so you guys approved a partial exemption on April 1st. And Christy Kessler had reached out, and after her and I visited, she wasn't even sure she was doing it right. Anyway, through conversation, I had some questions, and so I talked to Oki about it. And there is a clause at the bottom of 63-602B, section 2, I believe it is, that allows for athletics.
Change anybody else's? No, they're the only one because.
Well,
of
they have a
the-
gym. Most churches don't have a gym.
I didn't know if Trinity did or.
We
Liquor
haven't
Hill.
processed Trinity Pines. Their applications came in this morning, so we haven't got that far yet.
Quaker doesn't have a gym.
I'll address that one
Okay.
after she gets through her part of her presentation.
Okay. So at the end of section 2, it does state, provided however, that the use or lease of any property by any such religious liability company, corporation, society for athletic or recreational facilities, resident halls or dormitories, meeting rooms or halls auditoriums, or club rooms for and in connection with the purpose for which such religious organization is organized shall not be deemed a business or commercial purpose, even though fees or charges be imposed and revenue derived therefrom. So after visiting with him, we felt as though they should be actually approved.
So the legislature put this provision in the religious property exemption that allows for, and this is the way I read this statute in this particular exemption. A traditional religious property like Elk Creek Baptist Church, where they have a chapel, they have a congregation, and they hold worship services there on a routine basis. Also have cultural halls that have basketball courts and volleyball courts that can be utilized during the week. It's not part of their primary religious activities, but as a secondary use, if it will. That is keeping in the spirit and really the letter of this particular exemption, as opposed to a lot of other applications where you're going to see that are more recreational in nature. They don't have a traditional religious property that is, I believe is outside of the scope of that requirement. So that's the distinction that I recommended the assessor draws the line for, that would allow these traditional type religious properties, that if they want to utilize that as a community benefit, the legislature has clearly encouraged that by saying we're not going to remove the exemption for your church just because you let the local kids come and play basketball on a Wednesday night and charge a small fee to help clean up afterwards.
That makes sense.
How do you handle it? Okay, you think about this a minute. So like pickleball courts at Shiloh Bible Church, they don't, or maybe they do church, I don't know, for tournaments, but nothing else is held in that facility but pickleball.
I'm not very familiar with Shiloh Church. If it's like I just described, if it's a traditional religious type property that we all understand, it's got a chapel, there's a congregation, they meet there on Sundays, they have midweek church activities, but they play pickleball too. Even if they charge a small fee, they're allowed to do that under the statute. If your primary use of the property is more recreational in nature, and it just so happens to be owned by a religious organization, now we have some more analysis to
If you
do.
end up
Like a
having the
church.
National World Championships of pickleball at Shiloh and you charge $2,000 a ticket, that's a little bit different.
It's a little different, yeah.
Which I think.
But Shiloh doesn't have a church on it, do they? They don't.
They have a
meet
church
there
camp,
every-
I think they.
It's a church camp.
I think it's a
not
camp.
And that's the distinction that we're trying to draw, is that the church camps are really different properties with different uses than your traditional churches are.
I could see that one getting challenged someday, but it makes sense for me.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we change our original decision on Elk Creek Baptist Church and is this a full exemption now?
Yep,
Yes.
grant a full exemption.
And allow for a full exemption on the property.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, welcome back, Neil. The next one is Youth with a Mission.
Weird, I couldn't even tell you were gone.
And there's three, how many parcels here? Three?
There are three.
Three, okay.
So let's, I want to
Mhm.
discuss, two out of the three to begin with. They are being recommended for approval. So RPC 0026, 002, 006B is recommended for approval. That would be the YWAM office right here in town. And we are also recommending approval, for RP 13N 04E 054970. So that would be the bare lot that has a yurt on it, down by the river, next to the train depot parcel. because they
Oh,
use.
oh, yeah.
Okay, they use the parcel for praying, worship, things of that nature. So we are recommending total approval on those two parcels.
How big is that parcel?
I don't have all of that with me.
My question maybe for next year on these bare land exemptions.
It's
is
not that
if it's
big.
Okay, if it's a 50-acre parcel and they have
No.
a year, I mean, those are the things I'm looking for. That would be a discrepancy in my mind. But
No, it's not that big. I believe Arnie's looking it up.
Okay,
really
and
quick.
then you want us to vote on those two, and then you're gonna talk about the third one, or you wanna
Correct.
talk about the third one now?
I think we should separate the
Okay.
two to make it clear.
So the depot is line item by
We'll hear
itself.
it next, and we're recommending a partial exemption on that one.
Okay, so then I'm gonna go ahead and make the motion that we approve the exemption for parcel ending in 6B and parcel ending in 70. For full
Second.
exemption.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Now we can go talk about 61.
Mhm. Okay, so this, the train depot parcel is what we refer to it as. And it appears that they rent it out when it's not being used for their purposes. And they indicated that they rented it out for 2 weeks during 2023. So we are recommending that you grant them an exemption for 351 days for 2023. And 14 days would be considered commercial use and on the assessment roll.
I'll make a motion that we approve exemption for YWAM Depot for 300 and, how many days?
51.
351 days, and then tax the other 14, is that
Mhm.
correct?
a second.
Moved and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, now we're going to the Friends of Kelly's Whitewater Park. And this is,
Okay, so we have
a lot of parcels.
17 parcels down there. And so they have all been reviewed by both offices, and we are recommending approval for all 17 parcels. They are accessible to the public in the public park.
And it's because it's a park. I mean, even though they're not being utilized right at this moment in time, they're all separate, but it's still just a community park, basically. so-
Correct. So they qualify under 63-602C. They have complied with
Yep.
all the requirements.
It's Kelly's.
okay, do I have a motion to approve all those?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the application submitted by Kelly's Whitewater Park for the parcels mentioned
Second?
for tax exemption. I should have completed my sentence, sorry.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And the last one on my list is Alzar School, and there's 5 parcels.
Yes.
I'm really glad that they looked at this and, and made the decisions that they did on this one. I think it speaks to what we came up with last year.
It made it a lot cleaner.
Yes, it did.
So I've had 2 separate meetings with Alzar since last year and talked about some adjustments that they were willing to make. And you'll see in the application this year, they've made those adjustments. They're even going to take one additional step for next year, which is actually deed parcel 1 over to the Whitewater, the river rafting. The river
Confluence
rafting
River
company.
Expeditions.
Yes.
So it won't even be presented to the assessor's office as a educational property eligible for exemption. So I appreciate their efforts that they've made and their willingness to work with us, and I hope you're satisfied with the application
Worked
package.
just like it was supposed to work. Sue, which parcel is the one that is not exempt?
So that would be the RPC. 000055015, also known as parcel 1 in the application.
And that one is a full tax.
That, yes, that will be a full denial of any exemption and on the rolls at 100%.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
everybody good with that one?
I would recommend that we deny parcel 1 due to the Confluence River Expedition business operations on that parcel, and recommend approval of parcels 2, 3, 4, and 5 for exemption.
Second.
Moved to second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, just for confirmation, the one that is denied is RPC 00000555015.
Yes. Yep, that's the one, the very first one on the list.
Good job.
That's it?
It takes a village.
Takes a team, team effort. Good job.
So you asked, Commissioner Mopin, you asked about the yurt parcel. That is 1.27 acres.
Okay, perfect. That makes sense.
Just a little.
So this is the last of them?
No,
No?
oh, not even.
We're gonna do some more a week from Monday, 2 weeks from today?
Yeah, yes, on the 29th,
What-
is it?
Yeah, when
Yeah,
do we have to
we'll
it
have
done?
a pretty good lot of them ready.
May 15th is the deadline to have decisions made. You have, the applicants have until 5 PM tonight to get things
Oh,
submitted, so.
Get it
So
applied
they're
for.
still coming in as of today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Assessor Leeper, is it possible to postpone that until May 6th? The agenda for the 29th is full. There's a 3 o'clock event, unless the commissioners want to come back after that event.
Is that for the dedication across the road?
That's correct.
What do you guys wanna do? You wanna come back and work on that?
So that only gives us 2 Mondays after that. So we may have to do a special meeting one day if we,
I might be willing to come back after,
It's up to you guys. I'll do whatever.
I mean, we're just gonna give it a day and get it all done.
We're quite a bit ahead of where we were last year,
Oh, yeah.
which is good. So your stack of applications, I think we're, what would you say, about half done?
Mm-hmm.
do them all on the 6th, because I'm not here that day.
Nice
You're
try.
gone-
Tried.
You're gone the 20th,
Oh, thank you.
I've got on the 6th.
gone on the 6th too.
Well, I say we try and do some on the 29th in the afternoon after our,
Okay, so
let's keep going here
Yeah, I
because
agree
that
with that.
doesn't give us much time.
I know. All right, so about how much time do you think you will have on the 29th after your,
3 o'clock.
Probably an hour.
I've got 16 parcels in the queue right now. I don't know how many you've received today.
a lot?
Okay.
I don't even know how many, I'm sorry. I can barely
There
even,
will probably be a bunch come in today.
yeah. We will get as many of them heard on the 29th as we have ready.
Unless the commissioners, we could start at 8 if you guys want, that'd give you an additional hour, and then
I'll do whatever you guys want to do.
let me know.
Neil, can you be here at 8 or you wanna wait, just stick to our normal time?
I can be here at 8, doesn't matter.
Um,
You guys.
you wanna do hers at 8 or you just gonna move the whole agenda?
What I would propose is that we have Assessor Leeper present the property tax exemptions beginning at 8.
Good. And that's on the 29th.
That's correct, and then we'll do claims, and then
Well, that's, okay.
We
Boy, I hope
just-
I-
I'm willing to do,
We just do
Whatever.
it for an hour.
that's correct.
We do it an hour after our meeting across the street. Also,
I think if we do an hour that day, we're gonna knock out a bunch of them. I mean, we've only done 15 minutes to
Going
do
through
all
them pretty
these.
fast.
you guys are going through them quicker than I anticipated. So.
Helps having your recommendation.
It's because I'm putting them in such an organized format for you. No, I'm just
You're
kidding.
so good.
We're spending our time
You
doing our
girls are killing
homework.
it.
Well, and I'm trying to send them to you in plenty in
Oh, no,
advance, so
you
you
go.
have time to read them and have any
You guys
questions
decided you
ready.
wanted to cancel it
It's
because
very
it was
helpful.
full
Okay, good.
In April, we could, if you guys want to reconvene on the
But you're
22nd, we
Sure,
can.
would you be offended if we had a meeting on the 22nd?
I don't care.
I'm gonna be gone, for the next day and a half to a training. And so that, I'm not gonna have time to process everything and get it on the agenda, ahead of time and get everything done. So that's why I had said we're gonna skip next Monday, and then you said you had Monday
You're
off.
not
so-
gonna be ready to.
Yeah.
have a meeting.
So
So
can we
we'll
just
just
do
stick
it?
to our routine and be here at 8 o'clock on the 29th.
That'd be great.
Okay. That's it.
And we'll have as many as we possibly can have ready on that day.
You gotta give us a reminder email.
Yeah.
No,
Was I supposed to be there?
oh, for the 8
I'll
o'clock,
be,
you
I'll be
mean?
texting you guys at 6.
That would help. That would help.
Listen, if I don't show up, you guys just go ahead and start.
Right, just start without me.
Short term is attitude.
So 8 AM on 29th. Commissioners, okay.
Okay.
And Arnie, there is no rule that says you have to wear a tie. I just want to reaffirm that you know that.
I like it.
I think you look
This
very
is a
nice.
classy joint. I figured I should
It's
dress
a
up.
classy joint. Oh, boy. Well, it's all Doug's idea anyways. Thanks, you guys. Good job.
Thank you.
So Kenzie, you want to wait for Jeff or do you want to go ahead? Do we need Jeff for any of this? Okay, then let's go on and we'll move on to our next agenda item. These are all action items. The first one is to sign the CD 451 amendment for financial assistance award for the Epstein Bridge project.
Yep, so this is what we discussed a couple of weeks ago. You guys signed the letter, so this just extends the end of construction to next December,
So we
2025.
don't need a vote and approval. We've already approved this.
You have approved it, now we're just signing
So
the
bring it
CD.
on up and we'll sign it.
Well, there's actually about 6 more things you need to sign. Do you want to approve them all first, and I'll bring them up?
Sure.
Okay.
Is that the next? No,
And that's the,
federal financial report, is that included in that?
It's for the same grant, but this is my quarterly reports that I have to submit.
Oh.
Yeah. So, this is just the quarterly report. So to date, the spend for the federal is $150,784 and no cents. And then the county spend is $66,727.
Okay. And you need a motion to approve that?
Yeah, because you will have to approve it, sign it, shebang.
What is it called again?
Federal financial report. There's
Yes.
2
Wanna
more
make a
on there.
Motion for that?
I move that we approve the federal financial report for the Abstein Bridge project.
Second.
And also sign the CD 451 amendment to the financial assistance award project. Do 2 at once.
Will you second that with you, Neil?
Yeah, I seconded.
Second them both for both of them. Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve both the CD 451 and the financial report. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. You want me to sign now or do you want to wait till the end?
I'll wait till the end.
Okay, so the next one's Woody Biomass.
Yep, so just an update and the quarterly reports that we need to sign, but the project is 85% complete. Next up is to get the software and possibly Scott's gonna maybe complete some more in July, but so far most of it has been done. But there is 41,500 left for reimbursement for contractual grinding and 4,500 for software. So we came in under budget at this point.
So the 41.5 that's total left, that
Yeah, that's left for
That's
that we
everything.
need to spend, and then we will be
for
reimbursed.
software and for the other stuff.
Yeah, contractual grinding. It can't be for hauling. So we probably would need to put more in the budget on the county side if we are going to complete the grinding and have it hauled.
And whatever happened at the Lake Fork site? Did they grind that?
I believe so. I know last time that was what they had planned for last quarter. So,
I think they did right in the Lake Fork.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve that.
Make a motion that we approve the Woody Biomass Pilot Program Performance Report and Federal Financial Assistance Report.
Second.
Move to second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Good neighbor.
all right, so we are requesting reimbursement for $18,454.04.
Oh, man, you went that through, wait a minute, say that again.
$18,454.04.
That's good neighbor. Is that what Mara's doing?
That's her, yeah.
This is just a reimbursement request of what has been spent. Right?
Yes, and the federal financial report. So that's another quarterly report.
Okay, so I'll make the motion that we sign the Good Neighbor Authority and the quarterly financial report. All in or need a second?
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Hey, Kenzie, you got me money for my S-Bridge yet?
Someday. It's on the
Don't
list.
give up on me.
I know.
Don't give up on me.
And now can I give you my quarterly report?
Sure.
Now, since it's his S-Bridge,
Oh,
we
yeah.
don't need
it's-
funding, it's
I
his.
like that.
These two are leaving me. They're just dumping it on me.
No, we're not. We're not leaving. We're still here.
Okay, so I wanted to kind of catch you up on what's been happening this last quarter. It's been really eventful, super productive. We've managed to secure 6 grants totaling over $678,000. Yeah. Good.
Nice.
Exciting.
So first up, we've got exciting news on the infrastructure front. So thanks to $500,000 grant from the Transportation Alternatives Program, we are gearing up to make Lakeshore Drive a whole lot safer for pedestrians and cyclists with a new shared use path project. LRIP awarded $100,000 for some much needed road improvements on West Roseberry Road. And on to safety, we are doubling down on making our streets safer with the help of the Office of Highway Safety Mini Grant, which has given us $14,700 to tackle aggressive driving. We're investing in 8 Dragon Eye speed LiDARs.
Question before you move on.
Yeah.
The 100,000 for West Roseberry, is that for that from the bridge to the highway
Open the
project?
window.
That's from the highway to the fire station. So there's some potholes. It's just,
Oh,
Needs some
West
engineering.
Roseberry. I'm thinking of Lake Fork. Okay,
thank you, Neil. I'm like eating up in here.
I'm dying up here.
don't want to do that.
Got menopause.
Then a buzz.
And then thanks to the traffic enforcement grant program, we've got an extra $9,500 to further amp up the aggressive driving efforts. And in terms of community enrichment, we were awarded a $500 grant plus tools and supplies for the Bienvenido Community Garden. And we're boosting our recreational offerings with a $40,800 grant for the Cabarton River Boat Launch project. And now on to finances. So we've wrapped up the Ed Pro program with our final installment of $15,000. And we're keeping our eye on pending reimbursements. So for the CDBG, we have the remaining $10,000, and then that will be closed out for Yellow Pine. And then RAC, we have $59,438 pending for fire mitigation for Jug and West Hazard. There's $219,983.46. And for Woody Biomass, we're waiting for the $104,000 reimbursement. And on a personal note, I'm thrilled to share that I passed the grant administration exam. So I earned,
Oh, congratulations.
so I earned the title of Idaho Community Development Block Grant Administrator.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
She can
So
be
now
one
we
of the
need to change your
She
title
wants a
here.
raise now.
It deserves one.
Yeah, yeah.
I've also taken on the role of grant manager for the traffic enforcement grant program for the sheriff's office. So that's been definitely keeping me busy. In the spirit of transparency and efficiency, I've introduced grant award summary, kickoff summaries. And we started using Tyler Technologies to do monthly reports on expenses to better track that. Onto a bit of a challenge we're facing. So I have a backlog of about 25 grant requests, so we are missing out on kind of a lot of opportunities there. To tackle this, Jeremy is looking into software for grant management to kind of streamline that process, maybe.
Is that through Tyler?
No, he's just seeing if there's any
It's a
software out
separate
there that
software
could.
altogether.
Yeah, he's just seeing what's available.
Good.
Where are most of those grants coming from? Which division? Or is it all over the county?
It's all over. Yeah.
Do you have
I-
somebody that helps you?
So
No?
Lone
well, some
Ranger.
solutions that we can consider are establishing criteria to prioritize grants that have the most strategic value, or maybe we could expand our team. So, a couple things. And now,
Wait a minute. Expand our team. I'm assuming you're looking for some help.
it's just throwing out a
Okay.
solution to a problem.
There we go.
Um,
Raise or help?
Yeah, right? She wants both.
So looking ahead to the next quarter, we are aiming to draft a comprehensive grant manual that will provide a detailed account of grant application and award process. And our goal is to submit at least 10 grants that are already pinpointed on the calendar. And with that, I'm all ears for questions.
The Tyler technology you've been using, how's that working out? Has that been easy or hard?
I would love to take some training. I've kind of been figuring it out, asking Rita. It's still a challenge, but it is, once we get there, it'll be great for,
Well, I appreciate your comments because we're getting a lot of that from different departments. It's really challenging, but once we get there, it's
Yeah.
gonna be great. So it's
there's a
like,
lot of potential with it. So, yeah.
wow, that's all good news.
It's a lot of stuff. Wow.
Well, budget's coming up, so we need to have
Come
some
on up and we'll
conversations.
start signing.
Got a big pile for you.
Big pile.
How much do you think Mara's activities are gonna add to your workload too?
A lot, but in a good way.
Yeah.
I think it does need to be centralized with the grant program, grant department, whatever. But there are quarterly reports, so that's, already about 30, 40 hours every quarter.
Oh, wow.
So it'll add a little bit more, but I think it should be a responsibility of the grant department rather than Mara having an employee and that employee doing it. It just kind of makes
Agree.
sense.
Would it, I mean,
I think you're.
would an employee, say hers or yours, be able to do what you do? I mean, it's not, it tells me you need some help. I mean, 25 pending, that's a
I
lot.
know, and I hate that because I'm like, there's so much, these are great requests and I want to fulfill them, but I just don't have the bandwidth. So that would be a discussion to have, how we would want to separate duties and kind of, implement that. I do have a couple ideas, but that's for.
Gotta look at stuff like that. Yep.
This is so important, and if you look at the 25, how much money is that? That's one of the, considerations too, so
Right.
further conversations.
You need the hat, buddy.
Why am I blinding you?
No, I mean, the Blues Brothers hat. You remember the hat that they had? That's the perfect glasses for that.
If not, I'll run up
I don't
here.
know, I'm looking at a lot of red
Thank you.
faces up here right now.
Red,
Yeah,
Oh, a
those
little
two
warm?
Got out in the sun a little bit.
a little warm.
I wanna go over this with you.
Right now.
Okay, anybody need a break?
Not necessarily.
Oh, I'm good.
We're all good?
Is the 2 o'clock online?
Is she gonna be online, Doug?
Or while we wait for her, I'll go use the restroom.
Why don't you mute us and we'll see everybody back here at 2 o'clock.
Amelia
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Our next agenda item is an action item. This is a discussion on hiring Amalia Baldwin for historical research for RS 2477 roads. Amalia, welcome. Good to see you again. We got the scope of work from Dave Bingman in March, and we're just kind of perusing through that. Has there been any changes to that, or is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I set this up so that if we could make it something that's more flexible than a straight contract with set path. If you have any questions about it, I'm happy to answer, but basically by setting it up as a master services agreement, we have the opportunity to just kind of add in roads whenever without setting up a whole new contract and going through the more administrative side every time.
And I think that's a great idea. I think what I'm thinking about it, this is just my perspective, is that you have a lot of different fees for different functions. And my feeling is, why don't we just set a certain amount of money for your contract, and then that can be renewed every year. So we know that there'll be at least a cap and we can kind of watch it that way. This is kind of open-ended, and so we got to be careful we don't go over budget.
Right, the way that, the budget people at my company explained it to me is that we would set up a task order that would have a set limit on it. And we would define maybe some of the things that you would like to see happen during that period of time, or under that fee. And then, it'd be easy to set up another one later if we decide to continue on the working, continue with more tasks.
So,
So a task order would be limited by budget.
so let's take the FAA road, for example. You've got 2,700 for that task, but then it's where I kind of get lost as far as the patent files and that kind of stuff. What are those?
So the way that I thought, through this process was that, Brian, Oki, and the rest of the team just decided on certain roads that they were interested in having research done on them. I could do general level research on those first, and we could decide which ones seem like they have a detailed, maybe want to know more about them, and then we could dive a little deeper into some of them. And that's where the patent files come in. Patent files are very useful in road research because they are what homesteaders submitted, the application that they submitted, and the work that they did to prove up their homestead. All of that information is contained in a file, and often in those files, they will explain that I was growing so many acres of wheat, and I would bring it to market, or the post office, or the postman would come down my road once a week, or whatever. Those kinds of things make it into the patent file that are often, for very remote areas, the only source of concrete information we have that a road was in place prior to that homestead patent being completed. And so for RS 2477 status, knowing that the road was there before the land was patented is part of that legal process.
Okay.
So what I suggested was that for some of these roads, we start with doing just kind of some general research, doing some newspaper research, doing some research in the commission records, and then maps, and then if there are some that seem like it's possible that they have a very early history, ordering the patent files for those. Those are all kept at the National Archives, and they have a $50 charge for each patent file. And you never know what you're going to get with those. Sometimes they're very short and they have no information, and sometimes they're very long and very detailed. And unfortunately, you don't get to know that until you pay for them. So you don't want to pay for them always, right from the get-go. But with the FAA road, the no business road research that I did for you, I did look at patent files on that one. And that was helpful in understanding how that road came to be.
Okay, so then I'm just trying to get this straight in my mind. The task order, first one is for 19,500. Is that correct? That's the overall look at all the roads to see if maybe some of them might work.
Right, so that's kind of a separate, yes. I do recommend that be the first thing that we do. What I'm suggesting for task number one is to go through all of the commissioner minutes, which are held in Boise County and in Valley County. Because Boise County has the minutes through 1917, and then from 1917 forward, they're in Valley County. But look at all of those, create a spreadsheet, and keep track of roads when roads were accepted by the county, when the county did maintenance on those roads, and when roads were abandoned, and looking at all roads. Anytime a road is mentioned, entering it into that spreadsheet. And that will be a quick way of just giving us a background information on all the roads in Valley County, when they appear in those books. And if the county has formally abandoned abandoned them, then there's probably no point in me doing any further research on them, right? It's a quick way to
Okay.
eliminate any further research on some of these. And a background, like, for all other roads that haven't been abandoned. And also, that is a process I take in every road project that I do, so if I just do it once for all of the roads, then I wouldn't have to do it again each time that we set up a task order for a new road. So even though it's a kind of a big chunk of change at the beginning, it means I don't repeat that process again, ever, for any work I do for you. I would have a record of all the places that a road is mentioned, in the commissioner minutes.
Okay, so if we approve that funding and then you find 2 or 3 roads that you think we ought to dig in deeper and look at, I'm assuming you would come back and say, yeah, I think these would work, but I'm gonna need another, whatever, $14,000 or whatever that's gonna take. And I like that idea because that keeps us in communication and we get to see each other more often and kind of stay abreast of what's going on.
Yeah, that is what I was envisioning, is that if I could do that step first, then we could have conversations about where to go next. And, on the top of this scope, there is a list of the roads that the county is most curious about right now, but we may identify something different if we do that task 1 first and find out that some of these have been abandoned formally, or, some of them, weren't accepted by the county until really recently, or something like that, that could help us sort of streamline the next steps of the research.
So Amelia, if you get to a road that piques your interest and you feel it needs to go into the patent part, is that something you'll just make a call on?
Well, I'd certainly be in touch with, at least Dave and Brian, if we wanted to have a full meeting about it, that'd be fine too, but, I wouldn't move on to another phase of research or into more tasks without approval or discussion first.
Amelia, if you're doing the list, does that give us like a map of where those roads are and the connectivity points, or do we have to go on to task 2 to get that map?
Task 1 would just be, making a spreadsheet of roads, so that would not have any maps or anything, or any deep dives of research. It would just be looking in the commissioner minute book, to see where roads are mentioned. And then if we wanted to do more research on any of those roads, that would move us into a phase where I would be looking at maps and pointing to certain stretches of the road on maps. I know that, the planning and zoning is the one that's kind of defining the roads names today. Sometimes those names have changed over time, so there will probably be a little bit of work in trying to make sure that I'm using the right name, from historical use of a name to present name in that first task. And that'll help to set some boundaries of where the road, like the starting and ending points of roads too.
Well, and I appreciate that because I think there's some roads that aren't on the list. One of them being what they call the C.A. Barton Road, which is from Snowbank to High Valley. That used to be the only way into the valley on that side of the river until Smith's Ferry kind of got started. And then they were able to ferry across the river and come on into Round Valley.
Yes, I am not able to work on that road for the county, because I've already worked on that road.
And so you can't share us what you found out on that road?
Brian and I haven't talked about this again. There is the possibility of having some conversations between the county and DF Development on that. So, it's up to DF Development if they want to share the research that I did for them.
Okay.
But, that is a possibility, is that they may be willing to talk about that.
And I think that's the kind of things that we need to discover is those roads. Now I'm looking at the list like 60 Lane. And 60 Lane I know is a county road, but I'm at the end it turns north or south. And I'm not sure why we're even looking at that road. Do you have any?
That road, I don't know why it's
Okay, so we'll get together with them, and all we gotta do today is just get you started and figure out the funding, and then we'll go from there. That work for everybody?
Yeah, I think the spreadsheet's great, but
Good.
we're not gonna know where any of those roads are.
Well,
So
some of
until
us
we
will,
get to
but some of us
task.
will.
What?
Some old timers will.
I'm just
Um,
wondering if a natural progression is to do task 1 and 2 at the same time, so you actually get information that we need.
Well, I think task one is she's gonna find out, hey, there's a possibility this could be an old established county road. Task two would, to me, would be dig into it and find the paperwork that shows that. That's the way I feel about it, but we gotta start somewhere.
Right, and
Absolutely.
I'll be sure to work with planning and zoning to make sure that we're making this spreadsheet useful, so that, we know the starting and ending points of these roads, or that we're calling them by the right name. I'll be sure to work with them so that it's a useful spreadsheet, not just for me and starting my research, but also for the county to use going forward to see where these roads are mentioned in the county commissioner minutes.
Larry or Brian, do you guys have anything you want to add to this? We're just trying to figure out how much money we can take out of general fund to get this started.
Well, so I guess a couple of things. The county's road book is going to have to be updated. And that's something that I think is going to be a routine task for the county over time. But there's a case that I'm aware of that's working its way up through the appellate process here in Idaho that could have a significant impact on all county roads and road books. And the question that's going to be litigated is whether or not what the recording requirement was in order to validate a road. And so the controversy is when you have a public hearing, you adopt the necessary findings to basically create a public road. One side of the argument is you have to take a document to the clerk's office, actually physically have it recorded, or is that public hearing sufficient to meet the recording requirement? That's the question that's being litigated. So depending on the outcome of that case could potentially have a dramatic impact. So the work that's being done by HRA to help us figure all this stuff out, and then we need to make a determination whether or not that particular road was actually physically recorded in the clerk's office or not, if that's what the outcome of the Supreme Court case is. So that's a significant issue that I'm monitoring and watching. That's going to have a big impact on the work that we're doing with respect to roads. And then secondly, without this research, I can't do anything. I really can't bring a public hearing in front of you to validate a road without the work that's being done. So it's a significant investment in completing that project. So I appreciate your support in doing that, getting as much of
This
that work done as you
Supreme
can.
Court case, is this a situation where somebody built the road or maybe gave the easement but never recorded it?
An old road. Clear
Interesting.
back in its origination was clear back in the early 1900s, like a lot of these are.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't standard practice back then to go down and actually have what they do have in the file is the county commissioners declared it a public road. They had a public hearing. They met all the requirements that the statute required them to, but they can't find any physical recording in the clerk's office that it was declared a public road and recorded with the clerk. So I don't have any crystal ball to tell you what I think the outcome of that's going to be,
No.
one way or the other. But I think us, like a lot of other counties, 150 years ago, it probably wasn't standard practice to have something recorded in the clerk's office. They just relied on the hearing that was held in front of the county commissioners.
And Amalia, you do know that we have some sea containers down at the county shop that has a lot of our records in it, old leather.
Mr. Chairman, we brought all those back.
Well, you got them all back?
All of the commissioner meeting minutes dated back have been returned to the clerk's office.
Well, that's cool. Was there any big giant leather books?
Pardon me?
Big giant leather books?
Yeah.
So then, Brian, my question to you is, I'm assuming we'll just agree on, say, $25,000 out of general fund reserve to fund this process, or you have a financial dollar in your mind?
I don't. I want you to be I want you to be strategic in the way that you spend the county's dollars, but at the same time, this is very valuable information for us to validate existing public roads and to resolve controversies related to those that there is a significant question as to whether or not they're public roads or private roads. And without this information, we aren't going to be able to go forward. So from my perspective, this is extremely valuable information, and as much work as we can get from HRA is valuable in accomplishing these tasks.
Did you look at the tasks at all to see, how
Yeah,
far?
David,
So-
Larry, and myself were part of the three of us kind of put together kind of this list of what we considered priority roads. Not priority from my perspective, but really from the Parks Department's perspective, and that's how they came up with that list of roads.
I'm just wondering if we don't just approve them by task. So let's do task 1 for the 19.5. And then once that's completed, if we don't get the information we need, we approve task 2.
Yeah.
So we're just continually moving it forward, but it's based, instead of just a dollar amount, the task specific.
And I felt a little bit like a duck out of water. I kind of trust Amalia, since this is she's an expert and she kind of knows how the process works to complete the research that's required on a road to be able to advise us how best to go about tackling this project. So, if coming up with a list of roads was the wrong way to go about it, there's a better way to do it. I'm not dug in. Please don't.
I'm also not dug into this, I think task 1, once we do that, we'll be able to reevaluate how to move forward.
Okay.
This is a new way of doing things for me too. Usually I get hired to do research on one road or a couple of roads, instead of trying to get a better sense of how all the roads in the county develop. So I think that by doing task 1, then we can sit back down again and decide what makes sense. And I may have to make a new scope or something, but it'll give us an opportunity to talk again about what makes sense for the next step.
Yeah.
To really refine some information on a certain set of roads. And I just want to note here too that task 1 for 19,500, that does not include the administrative fee. If you can see at the top of the tab.
That was my next question.
Yeah, there's 2,700. Just anytime we start a new task, that would be a little bit of administrative work on our end to get that into our computer systems, get the invoicing system set up, and to change the amounts in the invoicing system, and then that also includes any emails or conversations I have with you throughout the process. So.
And that comes to 22,200. So my feeling is let's just budget 25,000 towards it and see where it goes.
That's good with that.
So the way I interpret this project and this process is that for planning purposes, for looking down the road, being able to update our road book to be able to delineate and identify with some degree of certainty what roads are public, what roads are private, helps inform both planning and zoning, recreational activities, and just community use in general, and how, for Valley County in particular, to have access to Forest Service and what little BLM we have here, to have access to public land. So from that perspective, it's laying the groundwork or the infrastructure, if you will. And we've already got a road book, obviously, but we've done that piecemeal. And as you've seen, some of the processes, especially old, several decades past, they didn't always follow the same process. So if we can update that, make sure that we're following each of the steps that are required legally, then we can defend those decisions if they're ever challenged coming down the road. So.
Cindy, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I don't know what task number 1 is.
Basically, it's like an overview. Go ahead, Amaya, sorry.
Oh, no, I couldn't hear who you'd asked.
That Cinda is our P and Z director.
I'm moving slowly.
I didn't hear the name. Hi.
Hi. I don't know what task number 1 is or which roads were identified.
I'll forward this to you.
Yeah, I would like a chance to see those, to see how they fit into our development patterns. And for Amalia, we do have files on most of the roads. And we do have a lot of history, and a lot of research was done by Potlatch years ago on all of their roads. So we have a lot of information.
Cool.
Okay. I do have one question though. When Oki was talking about recorded, are you talking about recording like we talk about recording now, or just memorialized in minutes?
That's what that court case is about, I believe.
I mean, they didn't have recording devices back then.
Yeah, but I would assume if it's in minutes somewhere, you
But
know,
is it in the minutes? Is that recorded? Okay, because we didn't have any electronic devices to actually record anything, but in the early 1900s.
How do you know that?
were you here? Were you here back then?
Because I've talked to the building and I are like this.
Do you want this?
Yeah. Is that
Oh,
something to throw?
I like this. I was going to ask the same thing. That was good. Remember those days?
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead then and make the motion that we authorize a budget of $25,000 towards the HRA Associates research proposal.
I'll second that.
So before we vote, the only thing that I would state is that we want task 1 completed. We don't
Yeah,
want to just give
yeah,
them
yeah,
25,000. You know, what is the clarity of what we want done?
I think Amalia's going to kind of dictate to us what she thinks ought to be done next. The task 1 is definitely the first priority. Okay? Anything else? Everybody good? We got a motion and a second to authorize up to $25,000. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Amalia. We'll be looking forward to hearing from you every now and then.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a young dog sleddor today with you. Nice.
You want to be a county commissioner? Come on up.
He says he's good.
He's good. He's good. Okay, we're going to keep on going on our agenda. This next item is an action item. This is a request for contribution and presentation by the Idaho Sled Dog. Jerry, welcome. Come on up to the table. Let's turn that mic so everybody can hear you. Sure. This tall, skinny one here is the best. And you can just go on up if you want to leave those. Okay, thanks.
I'm gonna make him do it.
Hello.
Okay.
Oh, good. We have the other one over here on the chalkboard, Sherry. From last year.
This one. You're gonna talk to, you have to talk to that one.
This one?
Yeah, so you should.
Love all of the kiddos.
Yeah, a lot of kids in there. That's pretty cool. Does it? Okay. Okay, you hear me all right?
Yep. So what, you probably introduce yourself for the record, Jerry.
Yes, Jerry Wortley, race director for the Idaho Sled Dog Challenge. And
we'll have two parts here. I'll just give you the general overview. And then Eliza can talk about her education program, which is what she's involved with a lot, as well as she does a lot of our marketing there. So as you know, the races were canceled last year. We did get, because of the conditions, we did get the Warm Lake race ran, and it was quite successful. The photo there is from the Warm Lake race that we had this year, and that was one of the schools that came up from the valley that participated. So hopefully next year we'll have some snow.
Fingers crossed.
We'll see. So second item there is we had on the Iditarod this year. I just got back from there in the end of March, and we had 5 mushers on the Iditarod this year that had finished our race here. 3 of those were rookies on the Iditarod, and one of them, Josie Thayer, who won our race at one time, she was Rookie of the Year on the Iditarod this year. So,
She wasn't the one that ran into the moose.
no. No, she didn't. But, so anyway, and she's been at this race several times, and she was Rookie of the Year, so that was good. One thing I wanted to point out is that we've been starting the race here at the boat ramp, and we're looking at possibly moving that start over to Poison Creek boat ramp over by Tamarack, because it's bigger, and then there's a big parking lot there at Tamarack for shuttles and things. So I've talked to Parks and Rec; they're open to it. We've got talks pending with Tamarack to see if we can pull that together. We've figured it out here how to make it work here in Cascade, but it's pretty complex, and the traffic and the parking and all of that. Plus, we have to stage the races. One race starts, then they leave, the other one comes in, and we think at Poison Creek, there's probably enough room for all of them just to go back to back and make it a lot simpler. That's the plan. So we're looking into that, and we'll see if that goes or not. If we do that, the Poison Creek would just be the start only. We would still maintain a checkpoint here at Van Wyck Park and the finish line for the 300. So that would be the only change that we're thinking about. Otherwise, everything else would be the same as before. Although we had to cancel the race right up to the last minute, we probably went a little long. But we got right up to where we just had no choice. We had to cancel it, and we had mushers coming in from Ontario, from I think it was Michigan, and we had to head them off before they started coming this way. Plus, next year, I think, and going forward, if we have to do a cutoff, we will do it at least 2 weeks out, because we found it just too hard on the volunteers and all of that sort of thing. And I spoke with the other races, and they do the same thing. They've had that same experience before. So,
Jerry, would you remind me, when did you guys race? Was it in January? When did this start?
right at the tail end of January.
Right during that rain.
Yeah.
It got really, really cold and snow came and we were good. And then it was cold. And then right before the rain came, and it was clearing the snow quicker than I could do anything.
So have you guys talked about a different start date? The reason I ask that is because that's kind of what happened with the Winter Carnival. Every year it kept getting that January Chinook, and it get too warm.
Well, we haven't talked about that so much because we're between 2 races. We're between the Oregon race and the Montana race. And so this next year, we actually are moving it, I think, a week. I think it's going to start in February 2nd or 3rd this time, because the race in Oregon moved a week. And so we coordinate with those 2 races so that there's time between those 2 races because a lot of the same mushers go to all 3 of them, and they need a rest period between the time. So that's where we're kind of in that box.
And I'm sitting here trying to remember what the weather was like first week of February.
It was still bad, and normally
bad.
that second week is worse. I mean,
I
every
think
year
you
during
need to go
winter
the
carnival.
Other way, maybe 1st of January.
We were, the
And,
year before, we were minus 15 or 18
Yeah.
on race day.
Really cold.
The year before, we were,
How do you remember that stuff?
how do I remember?
Mine
I
were-
was outside the whole time.
My years are all the same.
Yeah, winters are all the same.
I was bundled up.
Yeah.
And I don't know what Winter Carnival's gonna do. It's a nice collaborative event, you know, with Winter Carnival, but I don't know what they're doing, so
Yeah, I don't either know what's happening there.
I know
so.
yet what they're
Brett.
doing, so.
Brundage Ski Hill didn't open until after the first of the year. I mean,
Yeah, it was just late, everything was late, but the trail, we just saw it dissolving. And one of the things that we have to consider is cattle guards or
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, that kind of thing. So
Oh,
with
yeah.
the snow, then they pack in the cattle guards and they're fine, but it was just sloppy and there was just no way to make it work. this time, so. On item number 4 there, I just mentioned, you know, we canceled at the last minute, but our expenditures continued until race time. We did have a robust marketing plan in place that seems to be growing, and we had some great stats on that. You can see that we had, and this is our marketing guy that, I don't know how this works, but over 6 million consumer impressions. We had TV stories added or aired 213 times, 4.77 hours of TV, and 104 online stories. And then, of course, we were in the Winter Carnival or Visit McCall magazine last winter. So the marketing is going quite well and expanding, which then gives us a lot of recognition there. So that's just the general update. Next year, we're planning the same thing, 100 and a 300 and then the Warm Lake race, same way, same trails as before. And that'll be about the only change is if we move the Poison Creek for next year. So, and then we're moving it, I think, right at the beginning of February. So
Do you remember what we gave you last year?
10.
And you don't have any of that left?
We do have, we have a balance of about 17,000 left in our account.
Okay.
And we had, in our budget is around 73,000 right now. And we're wanting to bump that a little bit, as I mentioned here, because we want to see if we can bump up the purse for mushers, and then our expenses are continuing to go up anyway. And that's what the ask is for there. So, yeah, we had, we had some left over because we didn't, let's see, we didn't have prize money that we paid out. So we didn't do that, but then we had to return a lot of the entry fees and things of that nature. So I think we ended up at about 17 in the bank at the end. So that's where we are. So, and then I'll just let Eliza talk about our education program unless you have other questions.
Oh, Liza, slide the microphone and then state your name for the record, please.
Okay, I'm Eliza Barclay, and I run the education and the promotions for the Idaho Sled Dog Challenge. One other change that we're looking at doing is moving our Meet the Mushers to Cascade, because we want to make it a bigger event and maybe talk to Hotel Nobo, or we're talking about different locations where all the mushers are out with their trucks and some of their dogs, and the public can come and interact more with the dogs and the mushers before the race. And then that would give families, spectators, just another event, kind of building that out. And one of the things we want to do with it is, I was fortunate to go to the Iditarod with Jerry this year, so I could see how things work there. And the Meet the Musher event, you have a poster that you pay for the event, but we would keep ours free and maybe charge $5 for a poster. And then you can walk around and have the mushers sign it. And it just gets the energy and momentum going of, oh, I talked to that musher, or I, saw that dog. So that's one of the other kind of changes in education wise to, really hands-on experience with it. So we're looking at doing that. And then the Warm Lake race was a huge success. We were so blessed to be able to run it this year. And Ambrose School, which is in that photo, they brought, it was between 46 and 50 students up. It's their 6th grade class. This is the 2nd year that they brought their students up. All the parents commit and drive them up. And so they're planning on doing it every year. And this year we bumped it up because we had a PA system. So we did an education. We had our head vet talk about veterinarian care. Jerry talked about the Iditarod and the Iditarod Air Force and the Idaho Sled Dog Challenge. So it was a whole learning thing. So we had the kids were standing there, they could hear it with the PA system, they could answer questions. And so then we provided hot chocolate, and some of the ask is to be able to bump that up and make it an annual thing where there's hot chocolate available and coffee, and it just makes it nicer for the kids that are there for 2.5 hours. They have a great snowball fight. They obviously don't see snow very often, but there's 50 kids throwing snowballs. And so
There could be nothing go wrong with that.
nothing go wrong. No, and but the teachers are fabulous. One of the teachers with that is interested in applying to be an Iditarod teacher on the trail, which would be incredible to have somebody from Idaho. We want to get our local teachers more interested because it's an amazing opportunity. The Teacher on the Trail application takes between 6 months and a year to be selected. And then for the whole year, you're providing lesson plans and feeding information out to the schools. I think the Iditarod Education Facebook page has almost 7,000 followers. And these are educators. So the lessons are made, and then you can make it applicable to your classroom. And then the exciting part for this summer is we are hosting the Iditarod Summer Educators Conference in McCall. So the dates are going to be June 13th to the 15th. And the Iditarod does a winter conference in Anchorage right before the Iditarod starts. And then they do a summer conference. Last year was in the Upper Peninsula, I don't know, some little town up there that they did it. And people come in from all over. The Iditarod pushes out to their network. And this year they had mushers from Sweden, Norway. I think there's 4 countries represented. So their network is quite large because you get mushers from these other countries, and so people are following and tracking them. And this year on the Iditarod, they had Starlink. And so one of the asks is we'd like to subsidize the conference a little bit so it's more affordable for our local teachers to attend, because we all know teachers don't make that much and it's hard for them to take time off and to pay for these things. So to entice them to come, and then they also can get their continuing education credits. So they're available through the University of Alaska, and we're working with the University of Idaho. Fingers crossed that CEUs will be available through the University of Idaho for the June dates. But if not, they can still get them through the University of Alaska. So they can get their CEUs. They don't have to pay for travel expenses of flying and stuff. The Evergreen Hotel in McCall is giving us a discount on the meeting space from $500 a day down to $350, and they're doing room blocks for $100 a night for people to come in. So it's happening. We have the 2024 Iditarod Teacher on the Trail. Her name's Kate Newmeyer, and she's from Houston. She has a connection with NASA. So her thing was, Houston, we have a connection because astronauts take things to space, mushers take things on the trail. So connecting that. So she's coming in person, and then the 2025 Iditarod Teacher on the Trail is coming in to present, and I think the 2015 Teacher on the Trail. And then we have some other presenters. Josie Thayer, who was the Rookie of the Year, she just agreed to present as a musher who's run the Idaho Sled Dog Challenge and the Iditarod. And the goal for the conference is to link the Idaho Sled Dog Challenge with the Iditarod, because our race has become a feeder race. We had 5 run it this year. So to show our teachers and our local teachers, and then teach everybody else who comes in that, hey, this is in your backyard. You can take all these lessons that have been created, you can make them applicable to the Idaho Sled Dog Challenge, and you can go out and see it and take your kids for a checkpoint or stuff. So that's kind of the goal with the education stuff this year. Any questions?
No, I think it's phenomenal. On the Warm Lake Run, how many tourists did you think were out there? How many people were watching?
Not a lot of tourists, it was mostly the school was there. I think there was a few came up.
I would say we had 25
Did you?
or 25 or 30 that came up. Yeah.
So, but the school kids, of course, dominated. It was fun. And they were having a ball.
And they're the ones that are coming in the future to play and.
Yeah, and the Mountain Community School has expressed interest of making that a field trip for them too, just because of their location. And one of the other things, if we can move the start of the main races to Tamarack, location-wise, it's not as convenient for Cascade, but it's more convenient for the other schools. And if we can send all the teams out at once, what we run into is the schools can only attend the morning race because they have to get back to the school to take the bus. But if we can do it all time-wise together, then they'll get to watch. Usually we have about 17 teams that go instead of, 7 and, 10 or whatnot.
Well, and
So
our thing up here is that this draws people up to our county to play and spend dollars. And so we appreciate you spreading it out
yeah.
throughout the county and so everybody gets a cut of that.
Yeah, and we're trying to think of other things because Winter Carnival moved. So we want to make a week of sled dog, talk to the restaurants, make a sled dog meal, talk to the Roxy Theater, screen a movie about sled dogs, and the same at Tamarack, and trying to make it so there's different sled dog events happening that gets people excited about it. Maybe a bingo night or a trivia night. And since, take advantage of Winter Carnival moving, but also provide other opportunities for
And have
people
you
the
been in
community.
discussion with KWP to use their facilities at all for like parking lot? I mean, there's a lot of parking down there is the reason I say that. It's got 2 accesses.
Where's this KW?
Village Whitewater Park.
Oh, we have in the past, yeah.
And they've got that big field to the north now that they do a lot of stuff on that. I mean, there could be.
Yeah, I
potential
think
for-
if we were here, we figured out the parking. I think is Nobo was going to let us park there. The LDS Church over here was going to let us park, and then we were going to use Kelly's down there as overflow parking if we have to, because we used Davis Ranch that one time. That's when they had the snow bike races.
Right.
We found an alternative to that last year, which is what we were going to do. And so I think if we can't move over to Poison Creek, we're still good here. It's just a lot more complex.
Sure. Okay, and so your request today is for 18,100. And I realize
This is
that,
over the
it's
budget, right?
Hmm?
This is for a budget request. This will be on our budget,
right.
not for a check today.
Yeah.
No, right.
Right, yeah.
And we gave you 10 last year. So what's your pleasure?
We put it in the budget and see if the money's there. I mean, they don't need it today. This is just a request to put it in next year's budget, so we will add it. I have added it to my budget ideas.
Great,
Okay,
thank you. Thank
So
you.
we'll look at it during budgeting and see what we can do for you.
Yeah. And we'll,
It's a cool STEM. I mean, it's amazing to me. You guys have done a fabulous job with taking an idea the Iditarod's so far away from us. People never even thought about sled dogs till Jerry got in town.
Yeah.
And now it's just grown and expanded and, it's capturing interest throughout the region, so.
yeah, and the conference make sure you get the details of it, because even if you're in town and you want to stop in and listen for a little bit, I mean, you see it in action, you hear it, and it's inspiring, and you're like, wow, how can you apply this to the classroom? There's so many different ways. And one of the asks in there is to provide for the schools the first year, the subscription to the Iditarod, because as an insider, even if they do a video, I think it'll get the energy going, and then it'll be, we should put this in our budget and continue forward that this happens in the future. It's kind of the look of getting the momentum going.
Well, everything that's been built up here, they show up.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate that. We thought if we build it, they'll come, and
That's right.
and they have. So
Yeah.
one of the things I'll add, just add to this, is we had as a fundraiser. You may have seen the raffle that we did for the trip, for the Iditarod trip. And we sold 16,300 or 400 of tickets, and then we netted about 6,500 from that because of the expenses. But so I asked Eliza to come to that there, because she's so good at hospitality and all that. not so much.
You're
And,
not a hospitality kind of guy.
You're right. So, and it was quite successful. And we spent several days with people that won it. And so we're doing it again this year. I think we'll do it a little differently, but just from learning that experience. But that'll be, we hope to make that one of our key fundraisers, to do that. Plus it's a lot of fun. So.
And the winners were local. It was a big raffle. We have nothing to do with it,
Oh,
but
that's
Mike and
fun.
Leslie Doris,
Oh,
who
you're
owns Sawtooth Aviation,
kidding.
won.
Oh,
So
that's
I can say this because they
fun.
offered to do a testimony, and they were just little
Oh, I
kids in a
bet they
candy
did.
box, and it was so much fun. So that's also super positive that we happen to get local people who won the raffle.
That is awesome.
Okay, is there anything else?
No, that's all.
Could you do me one more favor?
Sure.
Would you introduce the young man back there that came with you?
Yes. Hey, Blake, can you come up here?
Blake?
Blake.
Blake, come on up.
Come on up, please.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
You want to tell the story about
No. Just say hello.
I don't blame him.
It's
Don't
okay.
put him under
It's
It's
pressure.
all
okay.
right.
Put him under pressure.
Do you have a minute, or are we past time?
No, we're okay.
Okay, so this is a fun story actually about my son. How I got involved 5 years ago when the race here. He was at he'd watched the movie Snow Dogs, and they have sled dogs. He was going to buy 5 more in this, so I bid on a ride at the ceremonial start and put him on the sled. I thought it was down and high. This is the musher back. Well, after I learned it's a 7-mile ride through Ponderosa Park, and he was barely 5. And I thought I am up for either the best mom award or the worst mom award. So he came back and he was all smiles but silent. And the musher said, I think he had fun. He didn't say a word, but I'm pretty sure he had fun. So we were in town and they were doing Meet the Musher at the bottom of the bank. And I said, let's go buy a thank you card. So we went to the bookstore, bought a thank you card. And he said, I want to buy this dinosaur. And it was a T-Rex. And it had a little book that said how to take care of your T-Rex. So we went to the Meet the Mushers and found the musher, Gabe, and said, he had fun because he was like, that was awesome when he finally spoke. And so we went and handed her a thank you card, and he said, here, this little T-Rex is for you because you need somebody to keep you safe in the forest and with the wolves. And he said, but I don't think you know how to take care of a T-Rex. And so it comes with a book that'll teach you, so you better read it. So fast forward 5 years later, I'm at the Iditarod with Jerry, and I said, Gabe is running this year. I'd love to just say hi to her. So she came in to the lakefront bar, and I went over just to introduce myself. I said, hi, and she goes, I know exactly who you are. I said, well, she goes, you're from Idaho. I said, yes. She said, your little boy gave me the little T-Rex. I said, yes, he did. And she zip tied it on for our race, and then she told me, she said, for every race I've done since then, I zip tie the T-Rex on. So the T-Rex is going to Nome this year.
Oh,
So
that's fun.
we went to
That makes me tear
the
up.
Musher parking lot before the Iditarod. And so I got a picture of T-Rex zip tied to the sled. And then T-Rex made it to Nome. So
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
so that was just some of the impact that, little kids have. This is 5 years later. I haven't spoken to her, and
Well,
That's
Blake, you be
great.
sure and come back and see us, okay?
say, okay.
Okay?
He's being shy.
Glad you joined us
he's shy.
today.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.
We have adults that don't want to come talk to us, much less.
Yeah.
Do you need me to turn this off, or?
No, just leave it there, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we got adults that we come talk to us.
That's true.
Okay, we're gonna move down to our last agenda item of the day. This is an action item. This is a discussion regarding Department of Land's upcoming 24 auction of endowment land in Valley County. And I think what they're asking for is just a letter of support from us. I think that's what we did in the past, wasn't it?
Let's see what they're asking for.
Where
They're
I've got to
notifying
find it. I
us.
don't know where it went.
It's in your packet. There was a
What is
letter
that?
to each one of us. The listed below is the ones that they have put up. A written response indicating the Bonner County Commissioner's position. Love it when they cut and paste.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I saw that. I'm going, what? What do we got going here?
We can go ahead and do a written response. So I actually ran this by United Payette and our group that's discussing the IDL land conservation to see if there was anybody that wanted to come and speak on this. These are all parcels that we feel are the highest in value out of that whole stuff that's up there on the IDL grounds. These are already within rights of way or within platted subdivisions. So
Are
they're
they
not
in
ones.
around the
that-
lake, or are they just in subdivision?
They're right around the lake. Most of it's in Pilgrim's Cove. And then the other side, on the west side, there's like one little tiny 5-acre section that some of these are in. So
That's
some of them
right.
are off Warren Wagon.
I was
and
reading a lot of those.
That's the Pinecrest additions.
Yeah, there's Point of Rocks over there. I think the Pinecrest additions are all over on the, oh no, maybe those are. Yeah.
The state's just wanting to unload those like they did a lot of the other around the lake.
They want to sell these, and then what their hope is that this will bring in enough money along with the commercial leases. Now, they're looking at potentially auctioning commercial leases on Dinehart. So they're hoping that these sales and that commercial lease will give them enough funding where they wouldn't have to consider anything else for just a little while and give us time to plan what that looks like next. One thing that has been requested, and I can't tell, Larry left, but there was a funding request and an easement request through the Pilgrim's Cove properties. And my understanding is that that easement had been approved, but they didn't know about the funding on it. So I think in our letter, if you guys want me to do something, I will draft a letter and request that they make sure and approve that easement through these parcels. And what it does is it connects Ponderosa State Park with Pilgrim Cove.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good idea. Okay, so you're gonna take
If you guys
and
want.
design the letter. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the motion that we approve the upcoming Department of Lands auction of endowment land in Valley County. With the easement request for United Payette.
I'll second that.
I think that might work. And then Commissioner Mopin is gonna write the letter or response letter. Is that good? Kind of a long motion.
That
That
works.
works.
We all good, Doug?
Chairman Hasrick made a motion to approve the auction of the endowment land in Valley County as presented by Idaho Department of Lands and approve the response letter to be prepared by Commissioner Mop.
And you're still good with that, Neil?
Yes.
Okay, we got a motion, a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries.
Print out that letter so I know what I'm doing.
Okay, so this being the last item on our agenda today, and there are no general public out in the audience, I'm gonna adjourn this meeting and we'll see everybody here in 2 weeks.